At Giant Eagle, we've always loved our perks. Now we're excited to welcome you all to the future of loyalty with My Perks. There's no math, less rules, and more perks. 50 perks equals $1 off your total, and there are no limits. Plus, you earn perks even when you redeem, so you're always building rewards towards free gas and groceries. Guests who earn the most perks can now unlock My Perks Pro, and pros get even more pumped-up savings. Visit gianteagle.com/myperks to switch today.
Welcome to today's podcast brought to you by U.S. Bank. Imagine a world where your moneymaker is your hobby. Well, you won't have to. U.S. Bank takes pride in being the extra push people need to turn their dream job into reality. With friendly advice, setting realistic goals, and being there, supporting them with every step in their journey, just like a friend or partner would. It's time to turn your side gig into something bigger. U.S. Bank. We'll get there together. Now let's tune into today's episode.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? This is Young Lion King Carl Fredericks, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll be discussing NJPW vs. Noah at Wrestle Kingdom 16, nights 4 through 7 of the Best of the Super Junior World Tag League Tour, answering listener questions and covering all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, prowrestlingtees.com/social suplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I am doing good. We are coming to you guys late on a Sunday evening. As you're probably aware, this week's Thanksgiving week. So, I mean, I got family coming to town. Girlfriend's got family coming to town. I'm sure you've got obligations. So instead of, sullying our, busy week discussing World Tag League and Best of the Super Juniors, we decided to knock it out here on Sunday evening and, kind of just get things rolling.
Yeah, this should be a nice, tidy episode here. We got some big news items to talk about. Of course, we'll give you an update on the tournaments and, spoiler alert, guys, it's been kind of rough, but, we'll give some thoughts on some of the stuff that's gone down this past week.
Well, I know that people like to hear us banter and, just kind of bullshit for a little bit here. We don't need to do all that, but how about just in the spirit of Thanksgiving, what's one cool thing that has happened this week or something you could recommend? Just anything quick.
What, from the tournament?
No, from life.
Well, I mean...
from your heart, from your soul, From deep within.
I mean, the transition into the Donovan dojo is about to begin. Well, it actually has begun.
Nice. Maybe I'll join you. No, I'm just playing. I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife and 5 stars, as they say.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Highest recommendations. I do not understand the critics. It's got like a 67. But the audience score something like 96%. So kind of tells you something. But yeah, if you are apprehensive or on the fence about watching that one, I'm telling you, go watch it. If you like Guardians of the Galaxy, you'll love Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Well, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, so I'll definitely have to check that out sometime this week.
Yeah, bro. Go see it in Dolby Digital. It was awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Also, something we'll be doing this week in between holiday stuff is finalizing the ballot for the 5th annual year-end awards. We are hoping to have the ballot available this weekend, along with a bonus episode, what we always do every year, where we break down all the categories and the nominees.
Yeah, I mean, we would invite Rich to do it with us, but, you know.
That man's a hater.
Yeah, he's a hater. He don't watch New Japan, you know. This man's going to be talking about Kenny Omega the whole time, so, you know, yeah, it's not going to work out.
He's going to be like, why isn't the rest of the year named after Kenny Omega?
To be fair, I think he only won it once since we've done the awards.
Yeah, because, I mean, he was only around, what, two?
No, he was on the ballot like 3 times, but he only won it once. Yeah.
The LIJ stands are strong.
I think Okada won it. I think it was Okada, then Omega, then, I don't know. Naito should have won it somewhere around there. I don't know.
Naito won it last year, I think.
I don't know who won it last year. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was Naito.
Should have been Shingo.
It should have been.
Know.
But yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll break all that down, give the nominees on the bonus episode. Ballot should be out this weekend. As always, we want maximum votes as possible. Every year we've done this, we've increased the number of people who have voted. Again, this is open to all listeners, all New Japan fans. So once you make your vote, please go out, share the ballot when it's available. Share it to anybody you know who watches New Japan and get those votes out. Let's get the most awards that most votes that we got for awards since we've started this. 5th one, we want to make this one really big.
Yep. And we got a question here. MJ does PR. He asked, Thanksgiving, guys, what are we thankful for this year as it relates to New Japan? I'm thankful for Shingo Takagi blessing us with quality title reign. Have a safe holiday. Hope you all get to take some time to spend with friends and family.
Thank you, MJ does PR. Happy early Thanksgiving to you and your family as well. I'm also very thankful for the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, having not just a great title reign, but being a great worker and having great matches, carrying the promotion on his back.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess the thing I was grateful for this past year was that never open weight 6-man tag team reign from Chaos. So it just fucking ruled.
Yeah, that was awesome. Shout outs to Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi for that awesome run.
Nice. Well, let's move on. We've got some huge news. It seems like a week's gone by, and the landscape of professional wrestling has changed yet again. And we'll get into it, but I feel like I need to maybe take a little victory lap, as they say.
Yeah, well, let's break this news down. So we had a big press conference this weekend announcing huge news for Wrestle Kingdom 16 Night 3. So Night 3 of Wrestle Kingdom will feature talent from both NJPW and Pro Wrestling Noah. The announcement was made in a joint press conference with both promotions. New Japan's Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Shingo Takagi, and Noah's Kaito Kiyomiya, Keiji Muto, and Kashuki Nakajima have been announced for the event on Saturday, January 8th. 2022 at Yokohama Arena, Yokohama, Japan, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. As of right now, no matches have been made official. The card will air live on a BEMA pay-per-view and have an English option for the broadcast. The cost is 3,960 yen, and it seems like that's about $34 American. The show will be made available on NJPW World and Noah's Wrestle Universe streaming service 1 week after the air date. A portion of proceeds from the event and pay-per-view will be donated to the Japanese Red Cross. Tanahashi and company president Takami Obari represented NJPW at the presser, while Cyber Fight director Akiro Takeda and Kiyomiya represented Noah. and comments from the cards. Other announcement participants were shown via a video, and one of the big quotes here from Obari says the match card is yet to be announced. NJPW and Noah wrestlers have their own histories and backgrounds. It's up to them whether they want to face off or even join together. This is a rare opportunity, and it would be somewhat of a waste not to have the two companies face off across the whole card. So, young boy, what are your thoughts, man?
Well, a couple things. First thing, the gentleman's name is Katsuhiko Nakajima. And then it's Akihiro Takeda. I believe those are the proper pronunciations. But yeah, man, I don't know, a couple days after we got off the air, recording last week's episode, we saw the press releases that there's going to be a press conference from New Japan, and then literally minutes apart, Noah said the same thing. They had the exact same time, and they didn't mention each other specifically, but it's like, well, why are these two, basically the two largest, pro wrestling companies holding press conferences at exactly the same time? It would lead you to believe, based on not just that, even the style of the announcements looked so similar. And we took an opportunity to, create a little collage of the two posts, put them side by side, and post something out there. And, you had your detractors and sort of your, fans that were maybe kind of erring on the side of caution, as they say, and thinking that maybe perhaps they were lifting some restrictions, letting people cheer, something of that nature,
Right.
And, and I could see why people thought that, but I was like, dude, there's no way they're going to, night 3 was still completely up in the air with Wrestle Kingdom. And they had just a week or so previously announced that they're going to be doing dream cards with dream matches. And how could that possibly be the case if they're just using the talent in their own company? At this point, it's not even really fathomable, because there's hardly any new matchups to be made in the company. And then, you see this evidence. And I mean, I didn't think it was that much of a stretch to think that they were very likely doing a dream card on January the 8th for night 3 of Wrestle Kingdom. And I even went as far as to tell people, like, yo, get ready, because Okada Kiyomiya, there was rumors of that. Both guys were talking about it in the press, last year. It never materialized. And here we are, the announcement came out, and I mean, it's just incredible. It's really, it's so exciting that I'm more excited for this prospect than I am for the annual 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom that we generally get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think you're the only one. I've seen tons of comments. Also, we'll have a bunch of questions later, but pretty much everybody's very excited, more excited about this night 3. Tickets are already sold out for this 3rd night of Wrestle Kingdom from what I've been seeing, and tickets are not sold out for nights 1 and 2 yet of Wrestle Kingdom 16.
They sold out like the day that they got dropped. Now, I don't know how they're doing it at Yokohama Arena, right?
Right.
So I don't know how that compares in terms of how many tickets they actually have on sale versus what they're allowed to sell for the Tokyo Dome this year, based on the current, restrictions. I don't know how that plays out, but I mean, it does tell you something. I mean, that they sold this out. I mean, that's a hot ticket, and I don't feel like many of the major shows that have occurred just across all companies have really been hot like that. Even
right.
Some of the successful ones for like Noah and Stardom and New Japan, like I don't think any like the wrestling fans have been buying into the prospect the way that they are here with all of. I mean, we've gone on the record and said on the air, we're not Noah diehards. We don't watch it or cover it the way we do New Japan, but I mean, we've said on the air, we're very keenly aware of what they've been doing the past 2 years. And there is a very legitimate argument to have been made that throughout this entire pandemic period, that they've been superior to New Japan in certain aspects. And so now you've got this hot product with all these big stars and all these fresh matchups. And then you've got the Goliath in New Japan, and the idea that we're going to get dream matches. I mean, this is kind of what Wrestle Kingdom used to be. During its early days and inception, you'd have dream matches with Noah and dream matches with All Japan and TNA and stuff like that. So this is almost, in a certain sense, kind of a throwback to that era of Wrestle Kingdom,
Yeah, definitely. And, since, AEW and New Japan have started working together. I mean, ever since like the Jericho Tanahashi match where we first heard about the Forbidden Door concept, you know, we got flooded with questions, you know, what AEW, New Japan matchups do you guys want to see? You know, we kind of struggle. I mean, a lot of the guys in AEW came from New Japan. Obviously, there are some dream matches and cool matches, but we've gone on record to say the real Forbidden Door is for New Japan to be working with other Japanese promotions, especially during the pandemic when you can't get these AEW guys and you can't get your gaijins in, like working together with a Pro Wrestling Noah, with a All Japan Pro Wrestling, with a DDT, you know, doing these big shows, these big dream matches. This is what's going to spark interest. This is a real Forbidden Door, and I think it's going to benefit all companies that work together.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll talk about it, but there's reports going on that, you know, some of the details surrounding this. So, I mean, like, it looks right now like this is, as of right now, a one-off event featuring the two companies. This event actually has been signed for almost over a year, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And was kept extremely close to the chest. Even many of the wrestlers that are involved with it weren't even made aware exactly the details of that was happening until shortly before they made the announcements. So, I mean, kudos to, you know, all involved. But I mean, if you think about all the other major companies that are in Japan right now, and in terms of like men's pro resu, and there's not too many big names. I mean, the big names would basically just be Dragon Gate, All Japan, DDT, Noah. I mean, I guess you could maybe throw Big Japan in there if you felt generous, but essentially those are the four big ones outside of New Japan right now.
Right.
And, you know, the rumor right now is that they're in talks or have been in talks to do other future shows, just like the press conference the other, you know, I got to apologize because I kind of made light of the 50th anniversary announcements the other week because it didn't sound substantial. Because I'm like, how are they going to have dream matches if they're not like working with outside companies? And then lo and behold, ta-da, here we are. And I think they're starting off with literally, you know, they're marketing it as a Wrestle Kingdom style event, and they're starting off with what, in my opinion, is the strongest of all the outside, you know, pro wrestling companies in terms of star power, in terms of, you know, main main event level style like match competitors. I mean, they've got a lot of stars over there, you know, Nakajima, Kiyomiya, Kano, Marufuji, you know, the list goes, Sugiura, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of dream potential between these two companies. And I mean, like, I'm here for it, like, all day.
Yeah, I love this. I'm very excited. Like you mentioned earlier, you know, we don't cover Noah in depth. Also, I know some of the big names. I know the big matches that have happened in the past couple of years. And I'm very excited just to see more of these guys and get these kind of dream matchups. And we're seeing this whole shift in mentality ever since Harold May left and Obari took over. Straight from the jump, Obari says he does want to work with other companies, and he's open to working with everybody. And we've seen that here in the States. He's working with AEW. They're working with Impact. We've seen guys go to MLW. We're seeing guys all over the indie scene here in the States. And now, finally, we're seeing this mindset happen in Japan, working with Pro Wrestling Noah. So there were some more news that came out of this from Joe Lanza, Voices of Wrestling, from their Patreon with some exclusive news. You can go ahead and subscribe to their Patreon if you want to get the full info, but just some highlights here. So Dick Togo and Osawa Rungai, kind of the two main officials that have helped smooth over this relationship and kind of get this relationship open with Noah. Like you mentioned, Josh, this was kind of known for a while now and kept under wraps. And some of these guys have been pitching matches, like it was said in the press conference by Obari, that, you know, a lot of these wrestlers, they have histories and they can work with certain guys. So like Muto, for example, he threw out a match with Sonata. Kiyomiya, he asked for Okada. Shingo pitched Nakajima. We know Ospreay and Marufuji. They've wanted to work each other for a while now, and they've kind of gone back and forth.
Yeah, I also saw Hiroki Goto's trying to wrestle Sugiura again, which I'm like, God, please no. Like, if there's any, not that I'd be opposed to like wrestling necessarily, but it's happened so many times. I'm like, can we do something fresh? Like, this is this is a fresh opportunity. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool. It shows, you know, it gives us a little insight into what's gone on with some of the administration changes, booking committees, and some of the changing philosophies in management, especially with, like you mentioned, Obari taking over from Harold May. And this is quite a departure from, New Japan's MO over the last 6, 7, 8 years, with pretty much just being an exclusionary company. And yeah, some of these different matches that have been pitched are pretty interesting. There's also been a lot of internal politics and discussion as to who would wrestle who. So even though some of the wrestlers are being vocal and saying who they'd like to wrestle, it doesn't mean that it's going to shake out that way necessarily. We do know that a lot of the card is still undecided and kind of being worked out. And there's a lot of discussion as to whether it's going to be a show full of singles dream matches head to head, tag matches up and down the card to maybe protect some of the talent, which we've seen a lot in Japan, especially with those all together shows or anniversary or memorial shows. We've seen some of that over the years, so that's not that surprising. But there's a concern on the Noah side that if they do champion versus champion or too many singles matches, because they're the smaller company, some of their talent might actually get buried. So I think that that's kind of where they're at. And then obviously there's the question of what do they do with Muto? And I mean, him being a former New Japan, musketeer and, from the third generation or second generation. Yeah. And, a lot of people just being like, I don't know what they do with Muto.
Right.
He's a huge star. He's got a huge history here. And, I think that they're probably going to have to put him in some sort of spotlight. 2021 we are living in such a weird timeline where Keiji Muto has finessed his way into a major Wrestle Kingdom match in 2021 or 2022, to be honest. How is that happening? That is so bizarre.
Olds on top. And it looks like 2022 is going to be another Olds on top year with Muto being highlighted here. And of course, like you mentioned with the politics, if they were to do a IWGP champion versus GHC champion, who goes over? Do you do a draw? Do you do a DQ? What do you do in a situation like that? But there's rumors out there that maybe you put Muto in there. He's somebody that would probably do business and wouldn't mind losing to whoever the IWGP champion is, and especially if it's going to be somebody like a Kazuchika
God,
Okada.
I do not want to see Keiji Muto wrestle Okada or Shingo or Will Ospreay. In fact, put his ass in a fucking tag team match and let him just be off on the side. If you want to have him wrestle, I don't know, say LIJ or something, or Dangerous Tekkers, let's do that. I have no patience.
Bro, this man is getting a singles match.
I have no patience. I know he is, but okay, since we're we're gonna have we got a lot of questions here, but let me just ask you off the dome. Best case scenario, what's the best singles match that you could probably think of in New Japan for Muto at this point?
I mean, you got to put him in there with somebody that's young and that can, pretty much carry the match. So I'd probably go with Okada or maybe Shingo.
Yeah. I mean, Okada did have that, classic match with Tenryu for his retirement. And I mean, Tenryu could barely do anything at that point. And I mean, they were still able to have a pretty emotional match. I mean, dude, Keiji Muto's 58 years old. He's not in his late 40s. He's in his late 50s going on to 60 right now. This is nuts.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And, the last thing from the press conference, Obari did close out and say that this is the first of many dream events that he promised for the 50th anniversary. So like you alluded to earlier, there has been rumors of talks of Dragon Gate and All Japan Pro Wrestling, DDT. So this could be just the first of many kind of super shows or crossover shows that we see happen throughout New Japan's 50th anniversary year in 2022. And we have a bunch of questions here on this.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm also trying to rack my brain about that Keiji Muto question. I'm not opposed to the idea of the Sonata match that they've proposed, because Sonata is a guy that, even though I'm not always in love with him as a singles wrestler, he's trained by Muto. He's his protege, so there's kind of a built-in story. Plus, like, it's a guy that's high up enough to probably eat the loss that Muto would make him take. And it'd be fine because it's just Sonata, you know?
Right.
But I got this fear that they're going to do Kichi Muto and Tanahashi because Tanahashi doesn't have shit going on right now. And I don't want to watch Muto and Tanahashi at this stage wrestle each other again.
Dude, I love Tanahashi. I love the ace, but we've seen like he's starting to slow down a little bit. And
bro, I've been watching his physique during this tag league, and I'm like, I wish this man would have gotten the break and not had to wrestle in this tag league because he's not looking like himself right now.
Yeah, and it's not just the black jacket or the haircut. He's on a little slower pace right now. And come Wrestle Kingdom, I'd like to see Tanahashi in there with a guy that can, help him have a great match and not him trying to help, Muto have a great match.
Damn, well, yeah, we do have a lot of questions, so I don't want to chip anybody on this, so let's get through this.
So first from Reddit user Puro Poppy, he says, if it were to be revealed Dick Togo single-handedly put together the NJPW versus Noah show, and Togo convinced New Japan to keep working with other Japanese companies going forward, would the evil push all be worth it?
I don't think so. I'm serious. I mean, it's like one of those things. It's like you go through something really traumatic in life, and they're like, "But it was all worth it to get, XYZ." No, bro, that traumatized me. I don't want to fucking live through that again. Like, right? If I could go back, I'd undo it.
It's like, did we have to go through the valley to get to the sunlight? Like, come on, man. But he brings up Dick Togo. We've been hearing all these reports and news stories and rumors of Dick Togo's influence in New Japan, in the Booker's room, and obviously the push of evil. And so I think here's just another signal of just the influence that he does have, and maybe why he's gained so much influence, because he's been a key part in smoothing things over with Noah.
I mean, here's what I'll say about all that. We're not the podcast that comes out, and this isn't a shot at anybody in particular, mind you. I'm not like claiming other podcasts do this, but you do see a lot of like wackos on Twitter who think they know about the ins and outs of what's going on with New Japan business. We've never claimed to be that. A lot of the stuff about Dick Togo and his influence on booking comes from other podcasting or media sites, and typically they are pretty reliable. So that's why we've kind of like, I think there's some smoke to that fire. We've seen that since he's come to the company and gotten on the booking committee, that there's been a shift in some philosophies with the booking decisions. But, we've never sat here and been like, fuck Dick Togo. Well, I guess we have just as a joke, but but we've never like out and out been like, I hate Dick Togo, I wish he'd get fired. Like, and I'm sure like the man's he's super connected. He's just like Gato, just like Jado, just like Taka. They've been in the industry for a very, very long time, made a lot of connections, and people have different gifts and skills and talents. And I wouldn't be surprised if, the reports that he's been involved with bridging the gap and setting up some of these other, promotional ties. Like, that's pretty cool. So, yeah.
Yeah. So next question here from our user Strong Style Demon. The biggest wish I had for NJPW came true with the possibility for cooperation with Noah being now once again on the table. With the third night of Wrestle Kingdom now taken care of, the bringing in of fresh talents to stir things up, do you still think they'll be during the first two nights have some surprise guests, for example, from the USA? Do you think Omega or the American Dragon could show up, or is it too early in one sense and too late, as in too close to the event? Another sense to get levels of wrestler in for those dates. Thank you guys for a great and fun podcast. As I stopped listening to other wrestling-related ones around a year ago. Keep up the good work.
Oh, wow. That's a really complimentary, post there. I appreciate that. I'm sure Jeremy does too.
Definitely.
As far as interactions from outside guys, anything is possible. I'm not counting on it, but I mean, if you think about it, you've got the first two nights of Wrestle Kingdom, right? But then we're still going into that Golden Series tour, and presumably leading into a New Beginning tour. Whatever's happening on night 3 of Wrestle Kingdom is a stop hold. It's a special one-off dream match. And who knows, maybe it could lead to further interaction between the two companies. And I think that'd be cool if it does end up doing that. But right now, the promise is a dream card and nothing more. So you've got to assume that whatever's happening in the first 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom is going to carry over more in terms of kayfabe to the Golden Series tour and to the New Beginning, if that's what it ends up getting called. And could that mean guys from from Strong or from some of the other companies that they work with could get involved in some aspect? Sure, why not? I'm not predicting that personally, but it's not off the table.
Yeah, we know that the restrictions for people coming in Japan are, getting lower and lower every day, and it seems like they're kind of loosening things up, and it's going to be easier for people to get in and less times for quarantining. But as far as like anybody from like AEW, like Kenny Omega or Bryan Danielson showing up for Wrestle Kingdom, I think it's very unlikely because, you have Dynamite on Wednesday, January 5th. So you're going to need top stars for that. And then there's the Battle of the Belts TNT 1 hour special that's going to be coming up. I believe that is January 8th, the same day as the third night of Wrestle Kingdom. So you're going to need big guys for that as well. So also AEW has a huge roster. Maybe there are some guys they can send depending on what the restrictions are, but I think it's very unlikely you see a Bryan Danielson, a CM Punk, Kenny, who's actually getting ready for a bunch of surgeries, or any of their top guys in time for these shows. So next question here from Reddit user Daigo Kuna00. We are roughly a month and a half away from Wrestle Kingdom 16, and while I'm very excited for the third night of Wrestle Kingdom, given the recently announced partnership with Noah, I'm still unsure how they'll put on 2 cards worthy of Wrestle Kingdom for the first 2 nights. My question is, besides the main events that have been announced, what other big matches do you see them realistically adding to the first nights of Wrestle Kingdom 16? P.S. I've been a big fan of the podcast for a few years now, so I just want to say thank you guys for your work.
Man, a lot of first-time, question askers or contributors, mentioning they've listened for a while. So that's always cool to hear, because sometimes I wonder, like, if those download numbers are a gimmick,
if Red Circle's working us.
Yeah, if we're getting worked and we're like, dude, we're fucking over in these streets, and then it's just people who have us like auto set to like download and they never listen. I wonder if that's real.
I'm sure there are a few folks like that, but yeah, we also have a lot of very interactive, very loyal, passionate Kiss fans.
Not my dog Diago Kanahu 00. But yeah, to kind of answer the question, I don't know if I want to go over like a full card, but I mean, I think they'll be fine. They're gonna have a road to Tokyo Dome, and whatever's gonna happen at Best Super Juniors is obviously gonna lead into that junior title picture for those first 2 nights. And the idea that we kind of know that everything on night 3 is sort of dominated by the Noah feud or Dream Show, that kind of helps us a bit, because then it makes it easier to kind of like book out, okay, maybe we're getting like a junior tag team title match here. We're probably going to get another 2 junior, heavyweight title matches. There's going to be a never title match somewhere. There's going to be a U.S. title match somewhere. There's going to be a, we already know the 2 main events for the first 2 nights, so that's pretty easy. 6-man tags will be on the line. So, I mean, already you can see that the KOPW is probably going to be involved in some like battle royal. So, I mean,
and Ishii brought the never title back, so that'll have a big match.
I think it'll be pretty easy for them to make a Wrestle Kingdom style card. They've kind of protected a lot of their big matches through the year by just like not running big shows and then kind of treating Wrestle Kingdom like, okay, here we go, let's like unload on them,
Yeah. So next question here from Reddit user Viking Pain. Did Dick Togo just save Japanese Purezu, and why is he the GOAT?
I don't know if I'd give him that much credit, but for me, cross promotion like this is always, generally speaking, I mean, it's not always the rule, but generally speaking, I think it's a good thing, and I think it's a healthy thing, and I'm happy for it. And Cyber Agent, in terms of like size to Bushiroad, they're like pretty competitive. I think Cyber Agent's actually like a bigger company, so I don't know like how chummy these 2 groups are going to be after this big show.
Right.
But I think it's really cool either way.
Yeah, if everything is true and Dick Togo would have a part to play, shout out to him for actually doing something I like.
Actually, I like his wrestling.
I like his wrestling. I don't like anything House of Torture related. But moving on.
Show.
Moving on to the second question, he says,
I think also, Peter's probably going to be amalgamized into that group. So, I mean.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'll sacrifice, some Garrote choking if we get Peter. So, his second question here says, in the spirit of Survivor Series, which 5-men teams from New Japan and Noah would you like to see represent their respective promotions?
Oh, that's cool. So yeah, if you had like a big 5, dang, I don't know. Well, I think
we can start from the New Japan side. That'd probably be the easiest thing to do.
Okay. Well, I think you go Kata Shingo.
Yeah. Ospreay.
Okay.
Tanahashi.
Naito.
Yeah.
Is that what you do, Naito and Tanahashi?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that. I mean, there's some other people you probably throw in there, but that's not a bad group. So we had Okada, Shingo, Tanahashi. We left out Ibushi.
Actually, you know what? Drop Ospreay and let's put Ibushi.
So no Gaijin whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's
straight
Okada,
domestic.
Ibushi, Shingo, Naito, and Tanahashi.
Yeah.
Okay. And then from the Noah side, I mean, I think I would go
Kiyomiya,
Kano, Nakajima,
Marufuji,
and then I'd probably go Go Shiozaki.
Yeah. That sounds pretty good to me.
That would be incredible.
Next question. Do you guys think this NJPW Noah Super Show would be evenly booked, or do you think the Noah stars are going to be walking into the show knowing they're going to be eating a bunch of L's?
I don't know. I don't think that it's going to be parody, although that would be classy if that's what ends up happening. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a 60-40 split, Noah winning. And for that reason, I don't think you'll see like the GHC champion wrestling like the IWGP World Champion necessarily, right, or anything like that. I think you'll see some predictable. I don't think you'll see upsets too much. I think like whoever you think is probably the bigger star from the two companies winning in the major spots that matter. That's probably what will happen, and I think you'll see Noah guys getting key wins. That's just my guess. I think you'd probably see them win enough to be respectable, and New Japan kind of coming out slightly on top. Maybe they win one extra match.
Right, and I do think, like you've mentioned, with Puro shows in the past, or these memorial shows or anniversary shows, we see mostly big 6-man, 8-man, 10-man tags, and also you normally have a pin eater on one of those sides. And so I definitely think also, I don't think the whole card will be a bunch of tag matches, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did get a handful of maybe 6-man, 8-man tags where you have guys on lower on the card. Maybe you have a Master Wato on an 8-man tag where he can eat the pin and give Noah a win.
Yeah, and I mean there's a lot they could do there. So I mean we'll see what happens. But
then his last question here, he says VOW listed Okada, Tanahashi, Ospreay, Shingo, Naito, and Ibushi as the top guys who were told about this NJPW Noah show. Are you guys surprised that Jay Whiteo wasn't told about the show too?
Well, I don't know that Jay White wasn't told about the show. I mean, that's just some names they listed. That's a report they put out. I'm sure it's factual, but I mean, just because it didn't mention Jay White doesn't mean he wasn't in the loop. I mean, we could speculate wildly. I mean, there have been things that people have said about, his contract status coming up. And as I've gone on record, I'm not going to speculate on it because I don't have the facts in front of me to really know what to work, what to shoot, across the board. So, no, I'm not that surprised. I mean, and who knows? Who knows if he will even be on that show or even be, in Japan for Wrestle Kingdom. I don't really know what's happening right now. So,
yeah, with him dropping the Never title, it is kind of questionable what his Wrestle Kingdom stats is going to be, whether he's going to go back to Japan. It's obviously Ospreay's going back, so maybe you would think some of these Gaijins who have been stateside, like him and Juice and Finley, would come back to be a part of Wrestle Kingdom week, but we'll have to wait and see. So next question here from Hawaiian Punch BV says Dick Togo wrestled for Noah in early 2020. Now in early 2022, Noah and NJPW are working together. We're all thinking it. Now it's time to just say it. All hail Togoism.
Yeah, hail Togoism. We're all about isms on Keeping It Strong Style, so absolutely.
And the second question, do you wish that Go, Shiozaki, and Shibata were healthy enough to have their rematch in Wrestle Kingdom? Go needs his win back.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't know that Go Shiozaki won't be on the show for sure. I know he's been on the shelf and all that. I don't really, again, we don't follow the company, so I don't know the timetable on his return. Although, you know, it's my belief he was probably Wrestler of the Year across the board last year, just based on his incredible title run. So I hope he is able to be. We'll have to look more into everything. I haven't even started any of my
dream
serious Noah research, you know, but I hope he's capable of being involved in this dream card in some capacity.
Yeah, somebody in our Discord, it might have been Zach, I can't remember, somebody in our Discord said that Go should be back in action in time for this show, but we'll have to follow up and get some more details on that.
I had actually heard the same thing, but I don't know that to be a fact.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll say I would love to have Go and Shibata involved in this big show. Next question here. Reddit user Grunty Dodds. On January 8th, would you rather see Muto wrestle a younger talent, or should it be olds on top?
I guess that's the same question we kind of discussed earlier. My main thing is, I guess there's two ways for me to look at it. The one way for me to look at is, I don't care if it's old or young. I just want to see him wrestle whoever he's capable of having the best wrestling match for that, you know, major of an event with. But then you also have to call into question, okay, the match quality might be, let's say they put him in there with Shingo, for instance, obviously Shingo or Will Ospreay, someone that's really capable of pulling someone up to a higher level. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then you still have to ask yourself, well, who's winning? Who's going over? What's the finish? You know, all that. And that's still on the table as well. And then maybe you change your mindset. Okay, it doesn't matter exclusively just as to who's going to have the best match with him, but you also have to think of the booking and the political side of it. And for me, I don't know. I think if he wrestles someone that's younger that can eat the pin loss, fine. But I mean, there's very few people Muto's going to lay down for, to be honest with you.
Right. I think he would lay down for an Okada. I think he would lay down for Tanahashi.
Right. It'd have to be someone that's like a Hall of Fame level, stature like that. Maybe Ibushi. Yeah. I don't know if he lays down for Shingo.
Maybe Naito.
Unless he's the champion. I don't know if he lays down for Naito. This is, guys, it's Keiji Muto. I don't know what to tell you. We'll see.
Right. That's why I'm leaning towards Okada, because I feel like he'll eat the Rainmaker, and Okada is obviously more than talented enough to get him through a decent match. Yeah,
but you're wasting the opportunity for the literal ace of the company.
Oh, trust me, I don't want that. I don't want that match at all. I like you said, I want Muto, put him in a 10-man tag, stick a bunch of young No guys around him, get him in there with a bunch of young New Japan guys. He can pin Master Wato, he can pin Doki, somebody.
Right, that's what we would want, but let's be realistic, that's not happening.
Right.
So, but at the same time, I think it would also be booking malpractice to put Keiji Muto up against Kazuchika Okada. I mean, when the Kiyomiya match is staring us right in the face, and I think that they've already alluded to it so extensively, even before this event, but throughout even the small bits of promotion they put on YouTube and some of the press conference stuff like that. It's my feeling that it needs to be Kiyomiya and Okada, whether Okada is the world champion or not. That needs to happen. But I don't know who you should put Keiji Muto in there with at that point. Maybe you do Shingo after, let's say Shingo doesn't, win the double, or I keep calling it double gold because I'm thinking of Wrestle Kingdom double gold dash.
I mean, essentially, it's a double gold dash.
Yeah. But maybe he doesn't win the triple gold dash, and you put him in there with Muto. and then he beats Muto's ass. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well,
I think they should just do Sonata, let him beat Sonata, and we just move on with our lives.
honestly,
It is what it is.
That's probably the best case scenario.
I feel like it's going to be Tanahashi, and I think he's going to beat Tanahashi.
That would suck.
It's time to pay the favor back, kid.
Next question here from Razor P Sand 91 says, I will be going to the NJPW vs. Noah Super Show on January 8th, but I won't be at either Tokyo Dome or Wrestle Kingdoms on January 4th and 5th due to work. I was lucky enough to get my tickets for the January 8th show today. They sold out immediately, by the way. Then I checked about the ticket sales for the 2 Tokyo Dome shows, and I found it was curious to see that there were still plenty of tickets left for both nights. My question is, what do you think of the January 8th Wrestle Kingdom selling out almost instantly without any matches announced, but there's still being plenty of tickets left for both nights at the Tokyo Dome, despite 2 main event matches being announced?
Well, I mean, yeah, we've already kind of talked a little bit about that on this show already in this episode, but I mean, you got to think about it. Okada and Shingo is a match that's happened twice in this calendar year already, and the outcome of it, I don't think it's that much in question, really. And then it's not like Ospreay versus either Okada or Shingo is a super protected match that hasn't happened numerous times. I mean, even just last Wrestle Kingdom, within a 12-month period, Will Ospreay's wrestled both of those guys a combined number of 3 times. So, even though there's a story behind it, there's stakes, there's 3 gold belts, it's not like these are, Omega Okada, Tanahashi Omega,
Right.
Naito Okada. These are not things that have been spared and saved for a long time and then built to painstakingly and then finally given to us on a big stage. So I think that kind of draws things back. I also think that, the excitement of if I was a fan and I only had limited funds, I would go to the December 8th show as well, personally.
Right.
Does that mean? Oh, go ahead.
No, it's something else that that P-San mentioned. January 4th and 5th. That's a Wednesday and Thursday. Those are work days. Like it's much.
Well, no, it's a holiday, I believe. It's still a holiday, even though it's like a work day.
Gotcha, but still, in the middle of the week, it's still harder probably to plan that out. Versus you have a Saturday, January 8th. Like that's probably an easier date all around, whether you're working or not, to get to that.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you consider like a traveling crowd in Japan as well, not even just like international people that might come. But, that was another big thing too, is like there used to be a big international contingency of people that would, come out to these shows. And with COVID, I don't know how much of that is going to really still be going on. And, there's no denying. We've talked about it extensively for coming up on 2 years now. The booking, the cold reactions, the atmosphere, it all kind of adds to, the perception that the company's in a down period. And we've seen this company in down periods do, lesser numbers for Wrestle Kingdoms. That doesn't mean that I still think that they won't do well at the box office. That remains to be seen. But, it's not a hot ticket like the idea of getting all of these dudes from Noah that like have been crushing it, and then all these famous stars from New Japan that you really, really want to see them go head to head,
Right, especially, we mentioned before, like, under the Mays regime and other regimes, like, you didn't have a lot of crossover or partnerships, and so this is a big thing. Honestly, nobody thought this would happen. Honestly, it probably wasn't for COVID, and who knows if this would actually happen. So it's a big thing. It's a huge thing. Fans from both sides are excited, so definitely it's a hot ticket.
Yeah, I completely agree. Dom Homie 101 asked us, he said, with NJPW and Noah doing a joint show for the third night of Wrestle Kingdom 16, where does Kenta fit in on the card? Who do you want to see him face?
Yeah, that's an interesting name. Obviously, Kenta very big in Noah, and there also in some of the reports there are some guys in Noah office, even though things are smoothed out. Guys like Kenta and Taiji Ishimori, there's rumors that maybe
no, Kanemaru.
Kanemaru, yeah, sorry. That those guys aren't, maybe they don't want those guys wrestling on this crossover show. But obviously Kenta with his history in Noah, I think it would be great to have him on the show. I mean, I know people might think initially Marufuji, but there was that match that they had together when he was still in NXT, and people kind of forgot that actually happened. So I don't know if you would need to do another Marufuji match, but I'm not quite sure who he should go against.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to, there is the idea that's been thrown out there of guys teaming up across companies. And that, while it might not be as sexy as like a head-to-head, singles match, those aren't always bad. And I mean, what if we did get Marufuji and Kenta in a dream tag team scenario? They did tag together once upon a time. That would be something that could be cool.
Yeah, what if you did them versus like Dangerous Tekkers?
Maybe something like that. I don't know. I was kind of thinking maybe them against another like dream tag team as well.
Gotcha. Golden Ace.
No, I'm thinking someone from New Japan, someone from Noah teaming up. You know
gotcha.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is like it could never. It's got Fire Pro written all over it.
Definitely.
But I mean, Kenta could easily be involved with wrestling some of the bigger names over there. I mean, considering his history with that company, I mean, I think it's almost unlimited what you could do. I mean, why you could even have him like wrestle the GHC champion for the title.
Right.
And I mean, that would be something that would be like, oh shit,
Yeah, Kenta, promising to steal the GHC title and bring it back to New Japan.
Who's the champion right now? Nakajima?
Yes.
You could do that. I mean, I talked about like wanting to see Nakajima maybe like Naito, just privately, because I think that'd be cool. But I mean, why not do Kenta versus Nakajima? I mean, Kenta's probably one of the few guys on the New Japan roster that could really like hang with him in terms of the striking.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. But yeah, definitely. I think Kenta needs to be involved in this somehow.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the cool thing is like Kenta's an upper mid guy in New Japan, so you could pretty much do whatever you wanted in terms of how it relates to him in New Japan. But given his history with Noah and his reputation, it kind of elevates his stature on their side. So
right,
I mean,
he's also
kind of in a unique position.
U.S. champ right now. He could defend the U.S. belt against somebody on their side.
Yeah, that's true too. So there's a lot of cool things you could do. I don't know.
Don Holman also asked, any thoughts on the reports of New Japan trying to do more joint shows with other Japanese companies?
All of it, all day. We're here for it. We want it. Let's get some more of it,
DDT, All Japan, Choco Pro,
Freedoms, all of it.
Late.
Tradition. I want to see him wrestle. I want to see them wrestle, all the old dudes from Tradition, and let's do all of that shit. Michinoku Pro, I don't care. Just tap out. Come on. Basara.
Oh man.
Hard. Let's do a nothing but strong style matches with hard hit. Let's do that. Shoot style, never die.
So next question from Musley says, are we really likely to get a lot of 1-versus-1 singles matches, or will it likely be more 6-man tags, or a mixture of both? Also, Noah's going to win because they have the power of Ols on top.
Dude, oh yeah, so there's a funny thing where we're not the experts here, but some friends of ours had asked, like, does Noah have like dads the way that New Japan has dads? And I was like, yes, and they're all New Japan dads. I was like, they're all Noah stepdads basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got a lot of olds they got Fujita, they got Sakuraba, Kendo Kashin, Kakihara. Like, there's a bunch of dudes over there that are old. But Funaki. But yeah, I think that it would be wise for them to do maybe 4 or 5 big singles matches and then a collection of multi-man matches, because there's probably a lot of people that it'd be cool to see them interact, but it's not feasible to do 15 singles matches or whatever.
Right. Also, you want the big matches to get time, so yeah, I totally agree with you. 4 or 5 big singles matches. Treat like you would do any kind of big show. You have 4 or 5 singles matches, and you have 4 to 5 tag matches.
Rambo Slim Pig said, is this relationship with Noah expected to be an ongoing thing or self-contained to this one super show?
Well, I mean, it seems like this is going to be a one-time thing for the 50th anniversary, but if this show does well, pay-per-view numbers, obviously the tickets are already sold out. If everything works out and both companies are happy after the show's over, I could totally see them maybe wanting to be like a yearly thing that they keep doing.
Listen, when Shibata was involved in that feud during the G1 with Noah, I believe it was like 2015, 2016, and it never got paid off. I was so bummed. And now I'm like, dude, I love the idea of like blood feuds and heat between guys across companies. So I hope it does continue in some aspect or, some form. But right now, all we've been promised is one show. And that's all I'm expecting. And if more comes out of it, great,
Yeah.
He also asked, do you think Noah would take House of Torture? Why not?
Let's do it. House of Torture Exodus, that they can go and be in Noah for a year or 2 or 5 or 10 and, just really run things over there.
Yeah, show the GHC junior champion 5 times running,
Evil GHC champion.
So I guess this is the big question that I'm surprised no one else has asked so far, but Barry Walsh said, are there any dream matches from Noah and NJPW you would like to see? Sugiura versus Ishii or Shingo would be one I would love to see. And I got to tell you, I'm right there with you. Like, when I think of him, I know that people keep saying Goto, but fuck all that. Ishii or Shingo, like, that's what I want as well.
Yeah, well, Sugiura has come out on Twitter and said, like, he does not want to wrestle Goto.
No, because, bro, they've wrestled
like 9 times, right?
I'll look it up, but they've wrestled on big stages.
Yeah. For me, I threw out there on Twitter, I know it's probably unlikely, I want Shingo and Marufuji.
I mean, I'm down for that. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's see. How many times have these dudes fought in singles matches? So they wrestled in 2009 at Dominion. They wrestled in the B block of the G1 Climax in 2009. They also wrestled for the GHC title at Wrestle Kingdom 4. And then they wrestled again in 2012 on the 40th anniversary tour. So, and then that doesn't include all the numerous tag team matches that they've had with one another. So they've got 4 singles matches in New Japan. And keep in mind, it's not like Sugiura was like a regular in New Japan and he just happened to be like frequenting them at the time. Like, these are 4 dream match scenarios where they kept giving him Goto. So it's like, no. No, say no to the Goto. Stop the Goto.
Doesn't need to wrestle that geek.
Although I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be opposed to him and Minoru Suzuki running it back one more time.
That's another interesting name, Suzuki. Also, with we joked about the House of Torture Exodus, but also Suzuki-gun when they were over there running things in Noah, and Jado was helping with the booking there. Suzuki's a very interesting name that should be involved somewhere on this show.
He had fantastic matches with Marufuji. He had fantastic, like one of the match of the year contenders that year with Sugiura. It's one of my favorite matches of both of theirs. Yeah, bro, I don't know. Like, I would love like Go Shiozaki against like Will Ospreay maybe. I felt like those were like 2 of the top competitors last year, and seeing them go head to head would be really cool.
I also like their idea that's out there of Ospreay and Marufuji. I just love Marufuji, but anybody versus Marufuji.
I love Marufuji too, and I think him and Will Ospreay would just like tear the house down. Kano's another guy that I'm like, I wish I could see Kano and Shibata. That would be a dream match. But I love Kano, and I'd like to see him wrestle pretty much. I saw someone talking about like him with his like serious attitude taking on like Naito with his LIJ, Tranquilo Grift. That might be something worth I don't know. There's just, dude, there's so many. And the thing is, like, we're only naming the tip top guys in Noah. I don't even, admittedly, I don't know much about their mid card scene, which I've heard is pretty good. They've got from what I understand, a very good junior scene as well, a tag team division. So, I mean, there's other options out there that we probably aren't even keeping our finger on the pulse of,
Right.
But I'm wondering what they do with some of those dads. I mean, Funaki was in the final four of the N1 victory this year and has been utilized a lot. Sakuraba, what if they did him and like ZSJ? That would be something that'd probably be like dream matchy, you know?
That'd be pretty cool.
There's a lot they could do. I mean, and people will probably complain on some level initially because there's so much possibility and we'll probably only get so much, but I don't know. There's a lot of almost everything they do is going to be dream match elements. So
right, and I think also too we might probably get some kind of Rumble or Rambo with some of maybe the lower card guys to throw them a bone.
Yeah, and it's not like these companies have never interacted. So some of these guys do have extensive histories, like Tanahashi does. I know Naito does. So I mean, some of them have already had like interactions, feuds, and beefs in the past. I don't know what we do with Ibushi. I mean, I'd like to see him wrestle like maybe Nakajima, or I wouldn't be.
Hopefully he's just ready to go in time.
Right, Kiyomiya's another one.
Yeah. So at the press conference, Tanahashi went face to face with Kiyomiya. Yeah,
and that one, to me, I see that more as just like they're the two spiritual representations of the companies, not necessarily so much like they're going to wrestle, although they could. I'm not discounting it, but Tanahashi being like the pure embodiment of New Japan, the ace of the century, all that. And then Kiyomiya is like the new young ace of Noah. I don't think they wanted to have like Marufuji be in that role,
Right.
So that's another thing. But I don't know, man. We'll see. There's so much they could do.
Yeah. And what's one last thing to kind of wrap this all up? There was also the video that played, and also there were some hilarious comments, especially from Okada, just continuing his
how is this man not a heel?
His dickhead energy. He's like, oh, Muto, he's wrestling. He wrestles there. I had no idea. And he's like, do the Olympic level athletes, check in on the, athletes in the local. I forgot what he said, like the local rec or whatever. So also, Okada is kind of keeping that same energy that he has going in the feud with Shingo and Ospreay over the world titles. All right, so that's going to wrap up all of our discussion for now on the NJPW versus Noah Night 3 Wrestle Kingdom 16 show. Obviously, I'm sure there will be plenty of news. Actually, just checked on NJPW1972.com. They have step-by-step instructions on how to order the pay-per-view. So it is available English, Japanese. There will be English commentary. So go to NJPW1972.com. It's one of the top posts in the news section. It tells you how to purchase a pay-per-view on a Beema so that you can watch. If you want to watch it live, it will be available on World 7 days later. But who's going to want to wait 7 days for such a big, monumentous show like this?
Nice. So that is going to do it for the big news here. We got a few shows to cover, but before we do that, this past week, Tomohiro Ishii made his AEW debut. We can talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so Big Tom, he showed up on Dynamite. Also, we know that the Best Friends are a part of Chaos, so it was Tomohiro Ishii teaming up with Orange Cassidy. They defeated the Butcher and the Blade from the Hardy family office. Real quick, young boy, what do you think about Ishii's TNT debut here?
Well, I don't watch wrestling on TNT, so I couldn't tell you. No, I thought it was fine. I thought it was cool. I did a Google search the other day to kind of see various different names from New Japan and how their like interest levels in the States have kind of been over the past year. I think I looked up Suzuki, Tanahashi, Jay White, Okada, and Ishii. And I will tell you something, that AEW bump is a real thing. It really is. And right now, Tomohiro Ishii's interest in the States is higher than it's ever been, because I don't think it ever was that high. And a couple things I noticed that they didn't let him come out to his own music. And I'm not knocking them for that. I actually think it was smart because you know what? I don't think people knew who Tomohiro Ishii was.
Right,
Remember
especially
that last week?
Yeah, especially in that audience. They were in Virginia, which is not really like a hot, like I wouldn't call it like a quote unquote wrestling. Like if they were in like Chicago or Philly or New York or one of those Ring of Honor
smart crowd.
Yeah, smart crowd or one of those Ring of Honor hotbeds. I would think, oh yeah, they would for sure know. But yeah, in Virginia, and also you can tell, like you mentioned, like beginning of the match when he was in there, kind of quiet, like wasn't sure what to make out of him. But then by the end of the match, he had them in the palm of his hand.
Right, and so that was kind of my point last week. Was like, I didn't know what kind of reception he'd get, but as the match went on, people started reacting to him because, it's Tomohiro Ishii and he's an incredible wrestler. I didn't think the match was a classic or anything. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors for my taste, but it was kind of like a fun in the middle of the card sort of match. And it was funny. We were in our group chat, and when I made mention of all the, kind of shenanigans, James Boyd was like, Amres Ishii. So it was fine. I think it's good to have a collaboration like that from time to time, and it brings some awareness to a guy like Ishii from fans who probably haven't been exposed to him before, and helps to kind of bolster the relationship. But, I wasn't super, super, super excited about this whole thing. Leaving it, I didn't think it blew me away, but it was fine,
Yeah, also always great to see Ishii. Good little tie-in there. Also, I would love to, even Bryan Danielson joked about it. Like, Tony Khan, you have the American Dragon and Ishii in the same building, and you don't book them against each other. What's wrong? So hopefully, I'm not sure how long Ishii is in the States. Hopefully, he can do another shot, and we do get a big singles match with somebody on the AW roster.
Yeah. So, yeah. And my question is Mikey Nichols still a Chaos member?
I don't know. I mean, Shane Thorne was just released, and they're throwing out TMDK stuff all over Twitter. Also, Jonah is now a part of New Japan and Impact. So it seems like the Mighty Don't Kneel are getting back together, but I don't know if Chaos.
So what? The Best Friends are a subgroup of Chaos now. Why can't the Mighty Don't Kneel?
So I will say, I don't know if Rocky's. I can text him and ask him if he's bringing Jonah in, if he's bringing Shane Thorne back.
But yeah, that's going to do it for Ishii. Congratulations. And we have day 4 of World Tag League, day 5 of Best of the Super Juniors, day 6 of World Tag League, and day 7 of Best of Super Juniors. And, we had 4 shows here, Jeremy, 2 of one tournament, 2 of the other. 2 of these shows had no commentary whatsoever.
Bro, nature is healing. Things are going back to normal when you have VOD in the start of the tour, no commentary ever, some random gymnasium building, and we're back, baby.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now enjoy a large iced coffee for just $2. Add a breakfast sandwich to make a meal. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
At Giant Eagle, we've always loved our perks. Now we're excited to welcome you all to the future of loyalty with My Perks. There's no math, less rules, and more perks. 50 perks equals $1 off your total, and there are no limits. Plus, you earn perks even when you redeem, so you're always building rewards towards free gas and groceries. Guests who earn the most perks can now unlock My Perks Pro, and pros get even more pumped up savings. Visit gianteagle.com/myperks to switch today.
I don't know if that's a good thing. Actually, you know what? I preferred before in the past when they had just the single cam shows. You remember those?
Yeah.
And this one wasn't single cam. They were just no commentary, but they still had the 4 camera production, and the camera, the actual camera quality was just slightly below what you'd get on your standard, New Japan Road to type level show. But I didn't know how you want to do this. I know it's 11 o'clock right now. I don't want to be doing this all night. I know we usually do marathons. I was thinking maybe we just go through the results and talk about some of the major matches and major talking points.
Yeah, because, honestly, guys, I don't have a ton of notes. I did watch all these shows, but I don't have a ton of notes. You can look at my star ratings on Twitter at Jeremy L. Donovan. Finally today, I finally got 2 matches, 4 stars and above, but there hasn't been anything really great on this tour so far.
Oh, you went 4 stars on the semi-main event and the main event of today's show?
Yes.
I don't know if I would have gone that high, but yeah, I thought both those shows were very good, and I do agree with that. So let's just run through the results here real quick, and then we'll have we could discuss Tag League, and then discuss Super Juniors, and then be on our merry way.
Yeah.
So I'll start with World Tag League. So day 4, night 2, Oiwa and Nakashima, they wrestled to a 10-minute time limit draw. God defeated Tiger Mask and Yuji Nagata. Chaos defeated the Tenkoji team. Tanahashi and Yano defeated Great Bash Heel. United Empire defeated House of Torture. LIJ defeated Suzuki-gun. And the Dangerous Tekkers defeated Fale and Chase Owens. On day 5, night 3 of Best Super Juniors, Fujita and Yuto Nakashima wrestled to a 10-minute time limit draw as well. We do not have tape of this, though, because it's one of those no commentary shows. Phantasmo defeated Doki. Bushi defeated Yo. Sho defeated Taguchi. Ishimori defeated Robbie Eagles in what can be labeled an upset. Hiromu defeated Kanemaru. And El Desperado defeated Master Wato in the main event. Day 6 of World Tag League, night 3, we had Fujita and Oiwa wrestling to a 10-minute draw. Then we had Tanahashi and Yano defeating Blue Tigers. United Empire defeated Suzuki-gun. Bullet Club defeated House of Torture. LIJ defeated Great Bash Heel. Dangerous Tekkers defeated Tenkoji in the semi-main event. And then in the main event, we had the Chaos team defeating GOD 20 minutes, 2 seconds. And then day 7, Best Super Juniors Night 4, Oiwa and Nakashima wrestled to another 10-minute time limit draw. Kanemaru defeated Doki. Ishimori defeated Wato. Taguchi defeated Yo. With that defeat, Yo is on the brink of being out of this tournament. If he loses one more time, he will be completely eliminated. Sho defeated Bushi. Robbie Eagles defeated El Phantasmo in pretty competitive match. And then the main event, El Desperado, the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, he went to a time limit draw with Hiromu Takahashi. So we've got standings here. We got schedules. We got a lot to kind of unload. And Jeremy, what are you thinking here? Where do you want to start?
Yeah, first I'll just say overall, I mean, like I said, there's been, it's good wrestling. It's solid 3-star wrestling across the board. There hasn't really been anything that's completely awful. I mean, I am kind of sick already of the House of Torture stuff that we're getting in both tournaments. We're getting it on the tag league side with Evil and Yujiro, and then we're getting it in Super Juniors with Sho. And like we talked about last week, it's more disappointing with Sho because he's a guy, he killed in this tournament last year. He's a guy who could be having great matches, but all of his matches, he's pulling the wrench out. There's always interference, and it's just absolutely horrible. Taiji Ishimori, he's been really utilizing the bone lock in his matches, working over shoulders and arms of his opponents, getting some tap-out wins. United Empire, Aaron Hanare Okan, they've been using a new tag finisher. It's a finisher that Okan used when he was in part of Legion in the Rev Pro, and that's been picking some victories up for those guys. We had a Bullet Club versus Bullet Club with Fale and Chase against House of Torture. They seemed, they're kind of too sweet at the beginning, but, kind of broke down into the match, and there wasn't too much heat, it seemed, between them. So, obviously, there's still potential for something coming down the road with Bullet Club and House of Torture. LIJ's looked good. Tekkers have looked good. I'm trying to think. From night 3 of Super Juniors was day 5 overall, the whole tour. Like I mentioned earlier, really loved the semi-main event of ELP. Actually, sorry, day 7 of the tour, night 4 of Super Juniors. Semi-main event, Eagles defeating Phantasmo. Went 4 stars flat on that match. Thought it was good. Those guys have great chemistry. Thought they worked really well together, and it's a lot of high flying. We talk about some of what we're missing in the junior division is that kind of high flying offense. I thought these guys brought it here. And then the main event, that big rematch, Despie and Hiromu, I went 4.5 on this matchup here, and just really good stuff here. Despie, the whole tournament working over people's knees so he can hit that numero dos. And Hiromu in this match really wanted to give him the D and get him and tap out with a triangle. Couldn't do it, but awesome 30 minutes here.
Yeah, that's some great stuff there. I've also noticed, initially during the tour, they started off with the Young Lions kind of telling a story of Nakashima. getting his shoulder sort of attacked. And it seems like he's made the proper adjustments to kind of be more on an even playing level with Oiwa and Fujita. Even going as far as, I think on day 4, he finished the match in a Boston Crab, and it looked like he was maybe going to defeat Oiwa. And kind of in a similar situation with Fujita the next night, I assume, just based on the way they book. So sort of seems like all three of them are kind of more on an even playing level now that Nakashima's sort of back in the swing of things. Couple talking points on Tag League. Some of the teams that have sort of impressed me. The funny thing is, even though they're probably going to lose all their matches, this team of Suzuki and Taka Michinoku have just kind of been having, in my opinion, maybe the most interesting matches. I wouldn't go as far as to call them the best matches, because I don't think they're performing at a higher level than, say, like GOD or Goto and Yoshihashi necessarily. But they're kind of just telling different stories than the rest of the group is. And they're usually very simple, easy to follow, and kind of entertaining. And Taka's just getting his ass beat, and it's kind of refreshing. So I'm kind of enjoying them as a team. I think probably more than most of the other teams that are competing here. But I have been impressed with GOD for what that's worth. But I mean, I don't know. Chaos is coming off looking really good. Naito's doing a lot more work than I expected.
Dude, this man's coming out into suits on BOD shows.
I think he's like, he knows that he doesn't have anything lined up for Wrestle Kingdom, so he's like, all right, well, I got to make the best of what I've got in front of me.
Find it very interesting. House of Torture are 0-3 right now.
Yeah, and their matches have been the worst of the, like you mentioned, just not impressed whatsoever. I've kind of been impressed with Chase and Fale. They've always kind of been a group that I've sort of liked, but in an underling sort of way, like comedic relief. But they've kind of been working really hard.
They have been, yeah.
And having, like, I wouldn't call them classics. They're still 3-star matches. But for those two to have 3-star matches counts a lot more than the rest of everybody else, because they're working hard to have those 3-star matches.
Well, especially in this tag league environment, in a clap crowd environment. Yeah,
right.
Chase, he worked very hard in the G1, and also that's spilling over here in the tag league. And Fale, we haven't seen him in a while, so maybe he's motivated and just wants to show off since he's been off for a while.
Yeah. Moving on to Super Juniors, though. The one thing we got some questions about, but Sho eating all these losses in a row.
You mean Yo?
I'm sorry, yes, Yo, and that's sort of reminiscent in a way. It echoes what occurred during the Super Junior Tag League when him and Sho went on that early losing streak and then never really recovered and pretty much lost every match in the tournament. And he's kind of on the same trajectory. And one has to wonder if that means that this is like the beginning of some sort of redemption story for him. Maybe not even within this tournament necessarily, but just overall,
Right. Taguchi did have some interesting comments after their match today saying, he should drop the Yo and go back to his original name of Yohei Komatsu and kind of just reinvent himself and totally break away from the Roppongi 3K version of himself.
But that's what Jay was calling him when Jay was trying to, basically corrupt him when they were all members of Chaos. So I wouldn't go that way, because then Jay wins, Hiromu's gone back to the shorts for the remainder of the tour, which I'm not a big fan of. They just look shindy as fuck.
I know the first time he wore the pants, I was like, confirmed listener, Hiromu Takahashi.
Right.
And then he was like, nah.
I do agree with you when you say Sho is kind of disappointing, but in another sense, I'm kind of thankful because it could be worse. He's not really coming out there with like a Dick Togo or a second who's interfering in the matches. And even though he's not wrestling up to the level that we know he's capable of, he's mainly just kind of resigned his cheating to like a ref bump, a low blow, and a run shot, which when you compare that to the rest of Togoism, it's less egregious, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's picking up a lot of wins, and it looks like so is ELP. And yes. I'm starting to kind of think maybe we were a little too gung-ho thinking Hiromu was for sure the only guy that could like just run through this thing. And some of these point totals are starting to kind of look like, well, maybe there are some other contenders with 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom we haven't really considered.
Right, so yeah, right now Show is the only undefeated guy. He's at the top of the block, 4-0 with 8 points. Below him, you got guys with 6 points like Kanemaru and Taiji Ishimori. Kanemaru, a very interesting one here at 6 points. He's been doing jump zone action, jumping people during entrances, and pretty much using any dirty trick he can to get the one up in his matches.
Almost every match he's jumped somebody, so that's kind of his deal during this little tour as well. I think Ishimori is the guy, in my opinion, that's working the hardest on the tour.
Yes, yeah, he's been working really hard. Like I mentioned earlier, he's been using that the bone lock, which is the border city stretch jurisdiction, working over the arm and the shoulder on his opponents, and just some really good storytelling there, and just mixing that high speed while working on the arms.
On night 3, him and Robbie Eagles had what was, in my opinion, the match of that night, and he employed this shoulder breaker maneuver. I mean, it's a variation on the shoulder breaker, but he did it like 2 or 3 times to Eagles, and every time it looked super nasty. They told a really good little story, and I mean, like Jeremy said, this has been a 3-star tour. I mean, it's been nothing but, for the most part, quality. You have a few House of Torture outliers that are like less than 3 here or there, but for the most part, it's been all quality. But there's not really been a lot to kind of get super excited about or sink your teeth into. But the big talking points, and I guess we should just jump into it. Today's show, Day 7, Night 4 of Super Juniors. The top 2 matches at the end of the tournament, or the end of the evening, Eagles versus Phantasmo and Desperado versus Hiromu Takahashi. In my opinion, these were the first 2 times that it felt like we were getting even into recommended territory for that portion of the tournament.
Definitely. Like I said before that day, like there was nothing I had above 4 stars, and then you get to these 2 main events, and there are also 2 heated feuds here. Obviously, Eagles, he used to be a part of Bullet Club and essentially got replaced by ELP in that tag team with Taiji Ishimori. And so also a lot of heat and rivalry between those 2 guys. And again, it's a very high-paced, high-flying. Phantasmo's continuing to use the sudden death boot. We've seen in the matches, he kicks people in the guts, and they kind of they double over. So he tried to use that to his advantage here, but Eagles was kind of able to one-up him, got a quick victory roll win at the end here. Really good match with those guys.
Yeah, this one was interesting because he had stepped on the hands of Robbie Eagles and then was looking to set up that sudden death and then a CR2. And Eagles had, or you know what it was? He stepped on his hands and then went for the CR2. Mm-hmm. And Eagles' hands were hurt, but he was able to do a Hurricane Rana pin and kind of, catch him off guard. And there's been a lot of pinfalls like that through this tournament, a lot of like roll-ups. Everyone's just kind of going back to their amateur roots in this tournament. I've noticed not a lot of like, I don't know. It just seems like there's more of that going on.
Yeah, more roll-ups, more flash pins. It's been interesting booking here so far.
Also, Hiromu, that one pinfall that he used on Yo the first evening, he's gone on to use that in almost all his matches, and apparently it's like a new signature. Like, I forgot the name of it. I saw it published somewhere, but it does have a name. It's an actual, it's akin to like some of the pinfalls that Zach uses, like or like the ghetto clutch, that sort of thing.
I think it has like a weird name, like Zach. It's like I'm sorry, I forget what it's like, a super like long, like convoluted name, I thought.
I didn't hear that. I read it somewhere. I don't recall the name of it, but yeah, I did like this Phantasmo Eagles match a lot. It's got a pretty good rating on Grapple. It's at 3.63, which is, you always have to round up a little bit for them. I was 3.75 on this match, so maybe more in line with the Grapple users here, but definitely a recommended match in my opinion. And, kind of considering the history between Eagles and El Phantasmo, I think it was also, a fitting match to kind of play off of their history as well. Yeah.
And then that big main event, Desperado and Hiromu, also last year's Super Junior Finals, had what some people thought was match of the year quality, had a lot of rave reviews. So Big rematch here, and I thought they worked a great matchup here from the opening bell. They ran at each other, shoulder block strikes. Hiromu was just killing off at big spots. He did eventually hit the sunset flip bomb to the floor. Despie at one point got a chair and worked over Hiromu's knee on the ramp. Went for a pin. Red Shoes wouldn't count it. Got pissed at Red Shoes. It's a lot of great back and forth here. Desperado is really focusing on the knee. Anytime Hiromu got the upper hand, just kicked the knee, worked the knee, was looking for that the numero dos. And there's a lot of great counters, especially. And then Hiromu was going, I mentioned earlier, was going for the D, which is his triangle chokehold. And it's back and forth. Those guys went exchanging those holds.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this one, one thing that it calls to question for me is when you have a single block tournament like this, it means everyone has to fight everyone. And in theory, that's a good thing. But, I think about how this match was sort of held off all year long since that big, where did they wrestle? Was it Sumo Hall last time?
I think so, yeah.
I believe it was, yeah. And, that was a match that was like, it meant so much for both characters and meant so much for both of them in terms of their position in the company and marketability and everything like that. And they held it off doing the rematch all year. And every time it looked like maybe we were on the path to getting that rematch, it just never happened. And so that's why a lot of people were sort of like, oh man, they're going to do the rematch probably next year at Wrestle Kingdom, which would be a big deal because they only wrestled in the Super Junior finals last year. They've never wrestled each other on the Tokyo Dome stage. And then but then because it's a single block tournament, they have to fight each other at least once.
Right.
And then maybe again in a tournament final, possibly. And then maybe again at Wrestle Kingdom if that's the way it all plays out. And I don't even know if that's what they're going to end up doing, but just considering the level of this feud, I would hate if that's the way it plays out. And that's why I'm not a big proponent of these single block tournaments. I would have loved for them to have been kept apart and maybe done, a Super Juniors tournament final, rematch or, the big match in the Dome. I don't know. But putting all that aside, the match itself was fantastic. I just think it needed a bit a bigger stage and a more lively crowd. Mm-hmm. I'm not quite 4.5 on it. I probably went 4.25. But this is by far the standout match of the tournament. It's your first, junior match of the year contender for 2022 because we are in the grading period for 2022 currently. And there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, the strike exchanges were awesome. Like you mentioned, Hiromu was really looking for, that triangle choke, the D, and conversely, there was a long stretch of heat where Desperado was working over the knee to try and set up for the numero dos. And both those guys were trying to work their various different games. They know each other so well. They know each other's tactics. And, last year's Super Junior tournament final, I think they went past the 30-minute mark. So it makes sense that neither one of them are able to beat the other one within a 30-minute period at this point in their careers. And it makes you wonder, are we going to see them face off again in a junior tournament final? Or, is this sort of Hiromu's maybe Hiromu doesn't win this tournament, but because he drew with the champion, they still need to face off at Wrestle Kingdom in some capacity. So I don't know, but the match is fantastic. If you guys haven't seen it, highly recommend it. And it was kind of cool to get a draw because I don't even think we got any during the G1 this year. So it's kind of
yeah. And usually a lot of people kind of randomly predict draws and pick them and stuff like that. So first time in a while that we've gotten a draw in one of these tournaments. Towards the end here, it's kind of a little scramble to the finish. Hiromu hit the victory royale on Desperado, and he was looking for time bomb too, but Despie was able to block that, and then time ran out before Despie could capitalize on that counter of the time bomb too. That was the cool thing was it looked like Hiromu was in control and the guy that was getting ready to finish Despie, but as the time ran out, Despie countered time bomb 2 and got his own flash pinning sequence, and it looked like had there been a pinfall, he would have been able to kick out. So it was who really was winning that situation? It's hard to tell. Yeah. There was one shotgun dropkick in this match where Hiromu like kicked Despie into the guardrails, and it was just like nasty. Like Despie like just died into the guardrails.
Yeah, and I mean that's cool, but it's Super Juniors. There shouldn't even be guardrails.
Exactly. The Eagles match, I think both of them did like dives and like crashed into the guardrails, and then Despie, I think he did a tope con-giro in this match where he freaking dived. Yeah, it was Despie. He dived, did a tope con-giro, hit the guardrails. I'm like, come on, man.
So we got a few questions here. Soapy Smith II said, "What do you guys see as Yo's trajectory going into 2022 and beyond? With him kind of floundering in Super Junior so far and losing the show rubber match at Wrestle Grand Slam, he seems very directionless at the moment."
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that like we mentioned before, there's got to be some kind of change in character. There's got to be something to him, or else he's just going to be kind of stuck, kind of floundering in this role. There's got to be some kind of change, some kind of motivation, and maybe, like you mentioned, maybe this losing streak is kind of the breaking point and something that's going to get him to the next level and get him to be able to get on Show's level.
He also said it was mentioned, I believe, in the last episode about Show being a more natural babyface, while Yo should have been heel in the Roppongi 3K split, to which he says, "I totally agree. Before the split, I always fantasy booked Yo turning heel on Show and joining the United Empire as their local Japanese junior, what with Ospreay's connections and all. And now that seems unlikely. Sucks, as I'm a huge fan of both guys, and they both seem to be playing against type, so to speak." And, I got to agree. I mean, he's pretty much echoing the talking points that I presented a week or so ago. And I agree with you, Jeremy. I mean, I do think that both guys have been slotted incorrectly. At this point, they got to play the hand that they've been dealt. But I don't really know what the best case scenario for Yo at this point is. They're telling some sort of redemption angle where he's needing to find himself. And if that is something that's a story that they're telling, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it seems that there's enough evidence to indicate that there's a possibility of that. That might be a good thing, because right now, I mean, it does not seem like he's winning this tournament. It does not seem like he's hot. It doesn't seem like he even has like a lot, the kind of support that you'd expect, from a guy that came back from injury and what seemed so hot earlier in the year. That's all kind of gone by the wayside. And so, yeah, it is sort of like, what is next for Yo? I mean, I can't predict it. I mean, he sort of feels in no man's land, like with the Juice Robinsons and Finn Juices of the world,
Definitely is. Yeah, where does this guy go from here? Like we mentioned, like he should have been the one that turned. He should have been the heel, joined. Maybe he should have joined Bullet Club. Maybe he should have joined United Empire and kind of go off that show, being the more charismatic and kind of build up this goodwill. With matches with Shingo and stuff like that, facing these heavyweights, like I think they made a booking misstep here. But like you said, yeah, they have to go with it now, and just hopefully Yo can recover and he doesn't just kind of end up as that guy is kind of floating in opening matches, and he's teaming with Tiger Mask or whoever.
Dom Homie One had a few questions. He said, "Is it me, or are the fans overreacting by comparing Show to Evil? In my opinion, you can't compare the two. It feels like Show's cheating tactics are not as over the top as Evil's."
Yeah, it's not as over top as Evil. Like you mentioned, you're not getting Dick Togo in every one of his matches. You're not getting the lights turned out. It's not as bad as the Evil matches. However, it's a guy who we've seen have bangers with everybody in this junior division. He's had bangers with guys like Shingo. Show is usually one of the top highlights in a tournament situation like this, and he's not, because he has to play the gimmick. He has to do ref bumps. He has to get the wrench, and it just kind of throws the dynamic off of his matches. And it's not as bad as Eagle, but it's still bad. I mean, he hasn't had any standout matches yet, and at this point in the tournament, you think a guy like Show would be one of the guys working really hard. Not that he's not working hard, but he's just so focused in on this gimmick and the House of Torture thing that it's just kind of lowering the appeal of his matches.
Right, and I agree with that. At this point, I mean, it's really, I kind of already made the point earlier in the episode that Show isn't as egregious a perpetrator when it comes to like fucking off in matches as some of the other like House of Torture guys, but just like you said, he's not necessarily living up to the in-ring potential that we've become accustomed to. And that makes sense because he's a heel. I'm kind of just at a point where it's like, well, I don't know. I'll use kind of like the wait and see approach. Because right now I'm not a big proponent of it, but, you know, we've seen this with other guys in the past, especially when they first make a big splash as a heel initially, like, for instance, Jay White in his first G1. And over time, they didn't necessarily need to rely so much on all of that bad character work, you know, to kind of tell their story. It was sort of just something to set the tone and expectation for them early on. And I do think it's encouraging the fact that he doesn't have a bunch of seconds. He doesn't have guys running interference for him. He's just kind of having a certain tone of match and then cheating at the end, which, you know, is fine. I mean, ELP did a lot of that when he first came into the company as well.
Right. So hopefully it's just him establishing the character for now, and down the road we'll get some better matches out of him.
He also asked, is NJPW trying to tell a comeback story with Yo in this tournament, which I think we did address that. I personally don't know if it's just contained to this tournament. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not saying he's going to lose the next match for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does get eliminated pretty early on and doesn't make it to, final scenarios on those last few nights. And if that's the case, then I think that if they are telling a redemption story, it's not just in this tournament, but it's a longer story arc than just all that.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Also, Sho is the complete opposite. Sho was 4-0, 8 points, and then Yo is 0-4, 0 points. So these guys are going two different directions. They're telling the story here of Yo kind of being broken without Sho and really being hurt by that betrayal. Broken, yes. And so we'll see what happens here, but I think they're definitely telling the story. But I agree with you. I think it could be something that plays out longer than just this tournament.
Final question. Is it me or is Master Wato improving? You guys just look at his match with Robbie Eagles and you can see the improvement.
Yeah, here's the thing with Master Wato. For me, I still think he's kind of hit or miss. I think he has his really good nights, like the Robbie Eagles night, where he looks really good. He's hitting all his spots. He's, the kicks look good. The tornillos look good. And then he just has other nights where he's just okay, or maybe he misses some spots. To me, he's still kind of spotty. I think it's just who he's working with. I do feel like he has more confidence than he's had in the past. And so far in this tournament, I think he's been very good. And the Eagles match is probably one of the best matches he's had so far. But I don't know if it's like a full improvement or he's just, just getting some better footing or has better opponents right now. I'm not sure.
I mean, I do think he's improved. And we said that, at the end of last year when he had a match with Robbie Eagles that was non-title and it was on one of those Road 2 shows. So he has improved, but they also, for instance, last year they gave him a chance against, I wouldn't say it's a lot of the same guys, so I wouldn't say stars, but what I mean is last year they put him in a lot of semi-main events and even a main event and gave him a lot of time. And so they put him in these positions to really where he needed to step up and improve and perform and prove himself. And this time they've kind of put him in that 12 to 15 minute range, second, third match of the night, sometimes opening. And he's done fine, but it's kind of hard to compare that to what they were setting him up to do in the previous tournament,
Yeah.
And sure, he's improved, but I mean, they're not giving him the time to go out there and prove if he can go on a major, main event level in this division or not. So it's hard for me to be Wato's there. Right now he just feels like a regular guy, like a Yujiro or something like that. And it's fine. He can go out there and perform and have good matches. Everyone in New Japan can, but he doesn't feel special or stand out in any way. Maybe that will change during this tournament. But right now, I mean, I'm not overly impressed or anything.
Yeah, I mean, he did have the one main event so far with Despie on night 3 of the Super Junior tournament. That's the only main event that he's had or close to top.
Oh, that's right. But that one for me didn't even feel like a main event because you couldn't even watch the whole event as one thing. You had to watch each individual match video on demand. So that's might also play into it a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that is it for the question. So our World Tag League standings on top of the block, we have Naito and Sonata and Tanahashi and Yano and Dangerous Tekkers. They're all 3-0 with 6 points. Then with 4 points, we have Guerrillas of Destiny, Fale and Chase, Goto and Yoshihashi, and the United Empire with 2 points. We have Tenkozy. And then 0-3, no points. We have Great Bash Heel, House of Torture, Nagata and Tiger Mask, and Suzuki and Taka Michinoku. Then we have the upcoming schedule here. So night 4 of World Tag League will happen on Tuesday, November 23rd, with the main event, Tanahashi and Yano against LIJ, Naito and Sonata. Then we'll have Dangerous Tekkers versus United Empire, Suzuki and Taka versus Guerrillas of Destiny, Great Bash Heel versus Fale and Chase, Tenkozy versus House of Torture, Nagata and Tiger Mask versus Goto and Yoshihashi, and then the show will open up with Nakashima versus Fujita. Then on night 5 of the World Tag League, Sunday, November 28th, main event will be Dangerous Tekkers versus Guerrillas of Destiny, Nagata and Tiger Mask versus Suzuki and Taka, Goto and Yoshihashi versus House of Torture, Tanahashi and Yano versus Great Okan and Aaron Henare, United Empire, LIJ, Naito and Sonata versus Fale and Chase Owens, Great Bash Heel versus Tenkozy, and then Nakashima versus Oiwa as the opener. And then night 6, the last night that will happen before we record next, will be Tuesday, November 30th. And the main event here will be the LIJ team of Naito and Sonata versus the United Empire, Okan and Aaron Henare. Then we'll have Tanahashi and Yano versus Dangerous Tekkers, Tenkozy versus Guerrillas of Destiny, Great Bash Heel versus Goto and Yoshihashi, Nagata and Tiger Mask versus House of Torture, and then Suzuki and Taka versus Fale and Chase, with the opener of Nakashima versus Oiwa. Then for the best of the Super Junior, the standings, we have Sho on top of the block with 8 points. He's 4-0. Then with 6 points, we have Kanemaru and Ishimori. 6 points, they're 3-1. Then Hiromu has 5 points. He has 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Then with 4 points, we have Doki, Eagles, Bushi, Taguchi, all 2-2. Then with 3 points, we have El Desperado. He has 1 win, 2 losses, 1 draw. Then with 2 points, we have ELP, 1-3. Master Wato also with 2 points. And then with 0 points, like we mentioned, Yo, he is 0-4. Then for the upcoming Super Junior night, so for Super Juniors Night 5 happening Wednesday, November 24th, we have a main event of Hiromu versus Bushi. Then it'll be Taiji Ishimori versus ELP, Desperado versus Doki, Sho versus Kanemaru, Eagles versus Yo, Taguchi versus Master Wato, and an opener of Oiwa versus Fujita. Then on night 6, Saturday, November 27th, the main event of Hiromu versus Taiji Ishimori, Robbie Eagles versus Despie, Bushi versus ELP, Yo versus Master Wato, Sho versus Doki, Taguchi versus Kanemaru, and an opener of Nakashima versus Oiwa. Then night 7 will be November 29th, and we'll have a main event of Hiromu versus ELP, Despie versus Kanemaru, Sho versus Master Wato, Yo versus Taiji Ishimori, Eagles versus Bushi, Taguchi versus Doki, and an opener of Oiwa versus Fujita.
Great. Awesome. I wasn't sure if you had any other discussion around these standings or anything on these cards that, really pique your interest. For me, I feel like we did a pretty in-depth, discussion about most teams, or at least the interesting things that stand out. I don't have any changes to like my predictions of who's going to win in either of these two tournaments personally right now. I think it's pretty much the same, but maybe I don't know if you have a changed perspective as this tournament's going on.
Like you mentioned, I don't think Sho is a guy to continue to keep our eyes on. Obviously, starting off hot. Usually, when you start off hot, you usually kind of go on a losing streak.
Burn out.
Yeah. But he is 1/3 never champs, and it'd be interesting. He could, with Ishii being never champ, we've seen the junior titles tied together, tag and singles. Maybe the never and never six can get tied together. Maybe Sho somehow ends up getting a shot at Ishii for the never title by doing well in this tournament. So maybe he's a guy to keep our eyes out on. But I still think, Hiromu, Eagles, Despie, those are going to be guys that kind of finish toward the top of the block.
Nice.
And then as far as like the upcoming stuff, I think night 5 should be an interesting night. We have a lot of faction mates going against each other with Hiromu and Bushi, Taiji, ELP, Despie and Doki. So a lot of inter-faction matches that night.
Okay. You mean night 5 of Super Juniors?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it. That stuff looks good. Roma versus ELP, that's an interesting match on November 29th. I think the only other singles match they've had is at last year's Wrestle Kingdom, which, by the way, people, maybe someone can write into us and explain. Both me and Jeremy, and I even talked to Rich, we all had that match rated about 4 stars flat when they faced off at Wrestle Kingdom last year. But when you look at the match ratings on Cage Match and Grapple, they're nowhere near 4 stars. I mean, it's kind of strange why that one match seems to be an anomaly in all the year's ratings, where it just doesn't seem to line up with what we typically tend to expect from like a junior title match at Wrestle Kingdom with 2 flippy guys like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's very weird.
Super weird. But that match is one that I think is worth like paying attention to, and that's on the 28th, or I'm sorry, that's on the 29th. And Desperado's also wrestling Kanemaru that night as well. So stablemates facing off there too.
Yeah. So some interesting stuff coming up this upcoming week.
New Japan Strong was this past Saturday, November 20th. In the opening match, Finn Juice, they defeated the Young Lion team of Kevin Knight, Yuya Uemura. Second match of the night, we had the team of Bullet Club, Chris Bay and El Fantasmo. They defeated Arya Davari and Leo Rush. And the main event was TJP as he defeated Clark Connors. This match even got the full big match treatment with video package and the likes. I thought this was okay. Strong wasn't necessarily on the level of maybe, say, the previous week's episode, but the matches, in my opinion, were pretty good. Very impressed with Kevin Knight and Yuya Uemura going head-to-head with Finn Juice. Obviously, the veterans picked up the win there. And then the Bullet Club match where they defeated Leo Rush and Arya Davari was fine. A lot of, kind of flippy elements. Sort of still on the fence about how I feel about Arya Davari as he interacts in this sort of newer environment. I don't know if he's a perfect fit personally.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. And with these 2 opening matches too, I felt like there was a ton of like storyline development here. Obviously with the Young Lions, they're trying to impress and improve against Finn Juice, and then Bullet Club, we've seen them have a feud with Leo Rush since he's been on Strong, but that kind of hasn't really happened in a while, and so felt kind of like a random match, and so not a ton of sink your teeth in with those first 2 matches.
Yeah, and this crowd I thought was pretty good on the first night of the tour, but on the second night they seemed to be a little more docile, and I don't know if because they got burned out the night before, but we'll see as we continue to watch this Showdown series. But the main event I thought was pretty good. TJP and Clark Connors are both really great wrestlers. I think put in front of a more lively crowd, they might have had the match might have been even perceived better. But top to bottom, I mean, I thought this was a good match, and Clark Connors came in there with the taped up shoulder, and that really played into the overall story of the match.
And his knee was taped up too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
TJP did the dragon screw in the ropes at one point.
That's right. He was going extensively after both of those extremities, so it kind of gave Clark Connors, who's also a younger rookie, in terms of like his comparison to TJP, sort of an excuse as an out to why he lost.
Well, TJP still cheated too. He held the ropes down on that roll up.
He did, and if you notice the way the roll up itself also kind of like utilized a lot of leverage and pressure on that. Obviously, you're always putting pressure on your shoulders, but like the way he did it specifically, it played off the fact that shoulder was injured as well. So, thought the match was pretty good though. A good little main event.
Yeah, and it continues the LA Dojo United Empire feud.
Absolutely. So we had matches announced for NJPW Strong Nemesis, the TV tapings. They're going to be held Thursday, December 9th, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And some pretty big names, some big matchups listed here. So we're going to be getting TJP taking on the DKC in singles action. Carl Fredericks and Kevin Knight will be taking on Stray Dog Army and Bateman and Mysterioso. Brody King will be wrestling Dave Dutra. I don't even know who that is. Do you?
I don't. I think he's like a top independent guy in the California area.
Okay. Alex Zane will be facing Arya Davari in singles action. Dave Finley will be wrestling Jonah, just Jonah, not Jonah Rock. And then the main event that they have listed is Jay White taking on the Switchblade, Christopher Daniels. There was also an announcement this week of Eddie Kingston being on this show as well, but they haven't announced any matches for him yet.
Right. So yeah, interesting set of tapings here. They did release the promo of Switchblade. He mentioned in Philadelphia that he wanted to have like an open door match, and then in the Detonation tapings, they aired that promo on Twitter with him, saying, he's opening the door. He wants to face the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels. So that match will happen at Nemesis. So it'll be very interesting to have Fallen Angel in New Japan, and then also Eddie Kingston, which his match with Mox against Archer and Suzuki should be airing sometime in the next couple of weeks too.
Nice.
And that's pretty much it for the news. We didn't have any other news stuff besides the stuff that we've already covered in the show.
The one thing I would point out is the United Empire team of Jeff Cobb and TJP. They won their tag team or their tag match that we mentioned last week with Volador and Atlantis Jr. And they also kind of made mention that they're going to go on a rampage in CMLL, and they want to pick up I think TJP's trying to challenge for the NWA World Historic Middleweight title or welterweight title, whichever one it is that Volador holds. And one of them is getting a title challenge very soon. So it's kind of interesting. It's the first time in a while that there's been any sort of real substantial interactions between CMLL and NJPW contracted wrestlers. And it seems like they're starting to build some sort of story around United Empire in CMLL, which is also interesting because, you've got Will and his guys over in Europe, and then these guys here in Southern California and Mexico, and then the guys in Japan. They really are sort of like competing on 3 different continents simultaneously. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a potential to get a CMLL guy as a member.
I wonder. They've got so many people in the group already as is, and they haven't even all come together before on screen.
Right, and it could be like an offshoot member where he's never really shows up in Japan that much, but he's kind of like the Empire representative in Mexico, but we'll see.
Oh, one other piece of news. So today there was a match between Will Ospreay and Shota Umino for Rev Pro.
Oh, that match happened already?
It did happen, and Will Ospreay did win, and he used the Dragon as part of his finishing sequence to beat Shota Umino. And then he declared that him and Aussie Open were leaving to go to Japan, and Rev Pro could all fuck themselves.
I did hear that Ospreay headbutted a fan at a Rev Pro show this weekend.
I saw that, but I don't know anything about it. I didn't look into it. He told me to fuck off that one time, so I'm not putting it past him.
All right, we have a few last-minute questions here. Let's run through these and then recommended match of the week. So Barry Wall says, do you think with no white belt around that putting the belt on Shingo or Will Ospreay with the new title was a way to test them with a belt, and Okada with the V4 is a way to almost reset or go back to the tried and tested that does happen? Does that tarnish the reign of Shingo?
Interesting question. What do you think?
I definitely do think with the introduction of the World Heavyweight title and putting it on guys like Shingo and Will Ospreay, I do feel like they wanted to kind of coordinate those guys as maybe the new generation or the new faces of the promotion. Also, not having those guys kind of bypass that IC white strap potential run they might have had before they won the world title. So I definitely do see where that comes in play. With the V4, also we've talked about Okada and the V4 and his comments on potentially wanting to bring that back if he walks away with all 3 belts at the end of Wrestle Kingdom 16. And I do think it does hurt Shingo, and it does hurt it kind of screws up the whole title reign and history and all that stuff. And also, they should have never done it. But at this point, you already did it. Just keep going. I think they should be trying their best to make the World Heavyweight title as prestigious as possible. And scrapping it and bringing back the V4, I feel just kind of totally screws everything up.
I don't know. I feel like we're kind of retreading old territory here, kind of discussing this. I feel like for about 3 weeks, we had extensive discussion about the V4 belt. I don't know if, because like Okada had mentioned previously, he may have some sort of other ulterior motives or plans if he does hypothetically, beat Ospreay and Shingo. So maybe they do have some sort of plan for the V4 belt and all the lineages, but I'm not going to go through all of that again. But I do think that in the past, having the white belt to sort of set up potential world champions as a preliminary act was something that was nice and good to have. And the fact that it's not there kind of does suck. And there is a chance that if Okada does do something different with this V4 belt, it could be sort of a slap in the face to guys like Shingo and Ospreay down the road.
Yeah. Next question: any dream match you like to see from the ages? For me, Prime Beta versus Brock would have been nice.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've always had a few in mind, but I mean, it sounds like he's talking about from NJPW just in general.
Yeah.
Liger versus the original Tiger Mask, something I always wish would have happened.
Yeah, that would be dope. What about Sabre versus Inoki?
Why not? I don't know. There's a lot you could do. I mean, Hashimoto versus Ishii would probably be fucking nuts.
Oh man, yeah, that'd be great. I'm trying to think of any.
I've got another one: Fujinami versus Tanahashi. In their primes.
Dynamite.
My God.
Dynamite Kid and Ospreay.
Yeah, that's a great one. Perfect.
Scott Rand asks, what's next for Jay White? A return to Japan before Wrestle Kingdom or more Strong tapings?
Sounds like he could do both.
Yeah, also he's set for like we mentioned, the December Nemesis tapings, and then I think he's probably will head to Japan. If he is, he could head to Japan right after that, jump on that Road to Tokyo Dome tour, and set his program up for Wrestle Kingdom. Then next question's here from Hawaiian Punch BV. What do you think about the new batch of releases from WWE? Who would you like to see compete in NJPW?
What are your thoughts?
I'll see. Again, another talented set of releases here. For me, the top name that I would go after is Shane Swerve Strickland. Swerve is the man. He's an awesome professional wrestler. I think he would fit right in with New Japan. He would be the main guy to go after. Also, there's also Shane Thorne, who has a history and also part of the Mighty Don't Kneel, Mikey Nichols and Jonah. You have Nichols and Jonah somewhat affiliated with New Japan. I think it probably makes sense to get Shane and you get him in a World Tag League kind of situation with him and Nichols.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with both of those things. Honestly, WWE has had so many releases over the past year that I'm losing track of who was even involved in the most recent one. But if there was one guy out of that group that I would have notice of and be paying attention to, it's Shane Strickland. And I'm sure Tony Khan has his eyes on him. And, I do know that he has close relationship with many of the performers in New Japan, including, I believe, Rocky Romero, but, even more namely him and Will Ospreay, going back to like the Rev Pro and the independent days. So I would be more than happy if Shane Strickland somehow found his way to New Japan.
What do you think about Morrison? Do you think Morrison could fit in somehow?
Remember when he said he wanted to go to Japan a couple years ago?
Yeah.
And he was in TNA? I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Morrison killed it when he left WWE the first time and was doing Lucha Underground, doing Impact, and doing all these indies. Thought he got really improved and proved to be a top guy. And so I definitely think with his high-flying style, he could fit well into New Japan, and maybe he's a name you bring into Strong to really help elevate that brand.
Yeah, for sure.
This question says, now that Shane Haste is released, time for Gato to book Mikey Nichols, Shane Haste, and Jonah, the Mighty Don't Kneel, as never six-man champs. Evil has held on to the top belt in the company for long enough. So I guess more of it's a statement there than a question. And also he says, thoughts on Kitamura's MMA debut. Where do you think he would be in his wrestling career if he stuck with it?
Man, I don't know. Um, you want us to answer both of those at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see any like clips of Kitamura's MMA debut. I heard he lost. If I heard it correctly, he lost his debut this weekend.
Did I not say that would probably happen?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. As far as like his wrestling career, like if he had stuck with it, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say what that really would have been, but based on his physique and the hype that was behind him, it seemed like the sky was the limit.
Right. I mean, he got that big trial match series. They were getting ready to send him off to Excursion. Like, definitely seems like they were kind of fast tracking him to, be ready to be a top guy.
For sure. Did you ask this question about Mighty Don't Kneel?
It wasn't really a question. It was just more of a statement.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I was confused. Like the way that was like read together, I was like, oh, do we need to like address the Mighty Don't Kneel as well, or no?
No, I think he was just saying Mighty Don't Kneel should be the Never Six Man champs, and that Evil's held it long enough.
I'd prefer for Evil to just keep holding on to that. Just stay over there with that 6-man title. Like that's your area. You're good.
I'm trying to get Evil over into Noah. Just hang out over there for a while.
Noah and Chaco Pro.
Yeah, get him in
Lulu Pencil.
Yes. He also asked thoughts on Sean Porter versus Terrence Crawford.
Yeah, I was wrong. I said that Terrence Crawford would beat him, but probably wouldn't stop him. And he put this man away in 10 rounds, made him retire. Terrence Crawford's the truth, man.
He also said bigger burial: Okada burying Noah or Kenny Porter burying his son.
What? Who's Kenny Porter? What is he talking about?
I have no idea.
I don't know what that even means. I guess I can go to the Google machine, but that sounds pretty dark. Like we don't really talk about people dying on here that often.
I think not like burying, but like talking bad about his son.
Oh, okay. I was like, okay, that's Sean Porter's dad.
Okay.
I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, I was like, this whole thing took like a really dark turn for a second there. I actually didn't hear what Kenny Porter said about Sean Porter, so I don't know about all that. I saw the fight, but I didn't like keep up with the media or anything.
Yeah.
But Okada really buried Noah.
He did.
Like, bad.
Similar question from Dom Homie. Thoughts on the matchup and what should be next for Crawford?
Well, the big thing is I think he's leaving Top Rank, which I've felt like he needed to do for years because those promotional ties have kept him fighting lesser than opponents and kept him away from some of the big, paydays that have been possibly afforded to him. So, I think that would be the next good thing. Obviously, the big match everyone wants is Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. There's other fights on the table, but I mean, that's the only one that really matters. That's the big one that they can make the most money off of. So that's what I would do. And as far as like the match, I mean, I didn't think that Terrence Crawford would stop him, but I'm not surprised he was able to. I do think that early on, especially in the first 5 rounds, it was very back and forth. But, he's bigger, longer, taller guy, and he figured out how to shut down Showtime. So, congrats to Terrence Crawford, just proving again why he's the best of his generation in that weight class.
Nice. He also has thoughts on Canelo moving up to cruiserweight to fight. Is that Lunga Makabu for the WBC Cruiserweight Championship?
Yeah, he said, in my opinion, I see the smoke and mirrors in this situation. There's a fight that people want to see, but Canelo can do anything he wants. But I'm happy that Makabu will get a big time payday due to the fact that I feel like he will use the money to help out people in the Congo. I've heard the rumors. People think he's ducking Jamal Charlo. They think he's ducking David Benavidez. And, they think it's a smoke and mirrors fight. Let me just tell you guys right now. Canelo, well, first off, if Canelo were to successfully defeat this guy Makambu, who I've never seen, but I've done some research on, and he doesn't look like a killer, but like let's put in perspective, he's a champion at 200 pounds. Canelo started his career at 147 and then won his first title at 154. And there's no champion in history that has won titles in every weight class between 154 and 200. So for just that accomplishment alone, that would be noteworthy and historic. But it would also make him the first Mexican fighter in history to win world titles in 5 different weight classes. And there's a big difference between doing 5 weight classes at the lower weights where, you know, there's a lot more negotiation between those weights where it's like a 6-7, pound stretch. And then that stretch between 154 and 200 going into heavyweight. I mean, I can name you the 3 fighters, Bob Fitzsimmons, Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, that have ever even done a 160 to 200 stretch. And none of them ever won all the belts, or at least a title in each weight class on the way up. So I wouldn't call this like him ducking anybody because, I mean, when you are taking a fight against a guy that outweighs you by 40 to 50 pounds, and also they're the most experienced fighter in the weight class, and they're a world champion, and they've got the most knockouts of any fighter in the weight class. I mean, that's hardly a gimme fight. In fact, I don't know if I put money on Canelo for this fight whatsoever, but with all that being said, I'm excited to see it. It has a little bit of a freak show element to it. I don't think Canelo was necessarily his best at 175, and I can only imagine what his frame is going to look like at 200 or what kind of weight he actually comes in at. But if he does it, man, you really got to start talking about Canelo like as one of the greatest Mexican fighters that have ever lived. So I can't wait. As far as what's next for him after that, I've heard 2 rumors. I've heard a rumor that he's actually looking to possibly go up to heavyweight. As crazy as that sounds, and fight Usyk. The other theory is that he's putting on this extra weight to get comfortable so he can cut down to 175 and either take on Better Biev or Pivotal, I think is his name. I don't know how to pronounce either of their names, but Canelo's just trying to do historic stuff and be the greatest of all time. And I mean, based on his track record, I'd be hard-pressed to believe he's avoiding these 2 smaller fighters at 160 and 168 to take on a world champion at 200. So that's kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah. It's the last question here. Any thoughts on Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos? I'm rooting for George Kambosos to win and fight Devin Haney for all titles in the lightweight division since Tio was afraid of Devin Haney.
I mean, I don't believe that Teofimo's afraid of Devin Haney. But yeah, I think the fight's going to be good. I've got my money on Lopez, and I would love to see Lopez and Haney, square up for all the titles. I think, doesn't Gervonta Davis also have I think he's got 2 WBA regular titles in 2 different weight classes, and the WBA is trying to clear up that whole situation. But, that's another guy who you also have to kind of take into consideration, plus Lomachenko and this whole lightweight title picture.
Yeah. Well, last thing here, recommended match of the week. So last week I recommended for us to watch Jushin Thunder Liger versus Koji Kanemoto from January 4th, 1994. Youngbo, what do you think about this?
So that was one of my big questions. Did you mean 1996?
Maybe.
Or did you mean the match with them when Kanemoto was Tiger Mask in 94?
Thought it was Kanemoto. I thought it was 90. Maybe I put the wrong date, but it was Kanemoto.
So they wrestled on January 4th in 1994 and in 1996. And in 1994, he was Tiger Mask 3. And in 1996, he was Koji Kanemoto.
Hold on, let me see.
I kind of just assumed you meant 1996 and watched that one.
Yeah, go ahead and tell us about that one.
Yeah, so I watched Jushin Thunder Liger versus Koji Kanemoto, January 4th, 1996. Kanemoto came in as champion. Jushin Thunder Liger was able to beat him for, another record-setting IWGP Junior Heavyweight title reign. And I thought the match was good. Dave gave it 4 stars for the time. I'm a little more like 3.5. I didn't think the match was a bad match or anything like that, but for what these guys are capable of at 18 minutes, 59 seconds, I was a little bit disappointed. It was definitely like a strong match, but not overly like outstanding. But it also had a very like fast pace. There wasn't a lot of downtime. It felt more like a higher work rate, like sort of constant action style match that we've had in like the last 20 years, as opposed to like how those junior matches were orchestrated in the 90s. But very little selling. The match was still pretty good, and it was, good to see Liger pick up the big title win in the Tokyo Dome there. Is this the same one that you watched?
So actually, I haven't watched the recommended match of the week yet. To full transparency, been a kind of a crazy weekend, so I hadn't watched it yet. But there was a match that I picked up. It was one of their highly rated matches, so maybe it was kind of Melto as a Tiger Mask.
Well, because the match from the Tokyo Dome in 1994 is not highly rated at all. And that's why I figured it wasn't that one.
Gotcha. So I totally screwed up. I don't know which match I was trying to do here.
Okay. Well, it's officially January 4th, 1996. That's the one I watched, so that's the one it is.
Okay. Well, for my next turn, maybe I'll try and find the match I was actually trying to pick.
Nice. Well, the recommended match of the week this week, we are going to go back just a little bit to King of Pro Wrestling 2016. And the recommended match of the week is Team Noah versus Team New Japan, as we have the matchup between Go Shiozaki, Katsuhiko Nakajima, Masa Kitamiya, and Maibach Taniguchi, as they take on the team of Hiroshi Tenzan, Manabu Nakanishi, Satoshi Kojima, and Yuji Nagata.
Nice. Get us in that mood for some New Japan versus Noah.
Yeah, this is the last major match between New Japan and Noah during that summertime, feud between the two, and they'd had a lot of heated 8-man tags on the undercards of the G1 that year involving Shibata. And Nakajima and Marufuji had been the 2 representatives from Noah in that year's G1. And so this was sort of like the tail end of that feud. And very, very heated. If you look at some of the names here, and the names on the Noah side look a little more appealing than the names on the New Japan side. But the dads had been teaming with Shibata on the undercard all throughout that summer to take on these Noah, the Noah scum, the Noah trash. So this one got 4 stars from Dave Meltzer at the time. It's got 7.34 on Cage Match. Something cool and kind of different to check out this week.
Nice. Definitely will check it out. Have a little bit lighter week this week, so definitely will get the recommended match in for this week to review for next week. And so that's going to wrap things up for us this week here on Keeping It Strong Style.
Actually, you know what, man? Even though that's the final one, do the one from the New Japan Finals 2016. That one's better.
Okay.
That's the one where we get the really, really heated stuff between Shibata and Nakajima. Let's do that one. It's better.
Okay, we'll go with that. So what's the full matchup on that?
Oh, it's pretty much all the same names. Let me take a look here. So that one is August 14th, 2016. We had the team of Go Shiozaki, Katsuhiko Nakajima, Masa Kitamiya, Maibach Taniguchi. They took on the team of Hiroshi Tenzan, Katsuyori Shibata, Manabu Nakanishi, and Yuji Nagata. That one's much better. It's got better ratings, and Dave went 4.25 on it at the time.
Nice. We'll go with that, and guess all ready for Noah versus New Japan. And that's going to wrap things up here. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, be on the lookout for the year-end awards ballot. Going to try and get that out sometime by the end of next weekend. Also, look out for a bonus episode. Like I mentioned, we'll break down all the nominees and all the categories for this year's awards. And then we'll come back next week also and review the latest, the best of the Super Junior and World Tag League action. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/Social Suplex. We're also in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Discord server. Link for that is in the show notes. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Social Suplex Podcast Network, for YouTube podcast clips. Check out all the other shows that we have here on Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences Podcast with Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. And the AEW Match Guide Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
For the ones standing guard. For the eagle-eyed. For the knights in shining armor. And for all those who support them. We are Grainger, your experienced safety partner. Offering supplies and solutions for every industry. Committed to helping keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com/safety or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.